today, everybody? First off, thanks for tuning in to Emergency Central. We're bringing you guys the latest and greatest as far as studies and EMS news goes. This is a vlog that's focused on improving patient care and helping us all be the best possible practitioners in medicine that we possibly can be. With that, I didn't know if I was going to talk about this week or not, or if I was even going to cover it all. It was really a challenging call for me, because there's so much controversy in it right now. If you're looking around on the different medical forums that are out there, or even Facebook, what have you, Figure One, for anybody that's out on that. And I decided I was going to talk about it because there is a lot of really good information that I think can be derived from this, whether you feel one way or another about it. So first, story time. Back in December of 2017, there was a nurse at Vanderbilt Hospital. It was Redonda Vo. She's a critical care nurse, and she was floating from one unit to the next in the hospital. Now, as that, she was asked by one nurse to go, we'll say nurse one, was asked to go and take a patient down to CT for a PET scan and give them 1 to 2 milligrams of midazolam, because the patient was not able to tolerate the CT tube without it, or the PET tube without it. So Redonda goes and takes the patient down there. She goes to the Pyxis, and orders have been put in at this time. Goes to the Pyxis, can't find the medication in there, so she goes into manual override mode on the Pyxis, and I'll explain that in a couple minutes. She goes into manual override mode, types in VE, pulls up the first medication that she can grab, goes, gives it to the patient. Half hour passes, she hears a code blue in the CT room. So she goes up there and says, oh my gosh, that's my patient. A couple minutes go by, they successfully get ROSC, and the patient's transferred back up to neuro ICU. Now, a little bit of background on the patient. The patient was admitted to the hospital for a subdural hematoma. She was in the care of neuro ICU to begin with. Otherwise, she was doing fine. She was on her way to a good recovery. She didn't have anything that was life-threatening without medical treatment. She was doing all right. Like, she was expected to be discharged from the hospital, or at least to rehab or some type of other skilled nursing facility. So it comes back later that the patient is pretty much in a vegetative state. They have absolutely zero expectations of a neuro outcome or any kind of neuro recovery. She's on a ventilator. Family decides, we're going to withdraw support, and we're just going to put her under palliative care. So the patient ends up dying shortly after that. Now, here's what had happened. Redonda, when she couldn't find the medication, she puts the Pyxis into manual override mode. Now, when you do that on the Pyxis, it says, warning, this is for stat orders only, meaning this is something that we're doing because we need it now. We don't have time to fumble fuck with the machine, and we have to get the medication right now. Now, PET scan, routine procedure. It didn't have to get done right now. She could have spared a couple extra minutes to figure out what the cause was of not finding the medication, or calling pharmacy and saying, hey, I'm having trouble finding this medication. Is there any way I can come down and grab it, or can you guys send it up, or what's going on? Can you help me out here? And they would have been more than happy to do that. That's layer one of part of the system that failed. Redonda, she didn't recognize something was wrong and call the appropriate people to try and make it fixed. Step two, she goes into the Pyxis, she types in VE for Versed or midazolam. And the Pyxis machine uses generic names for medications only. So what happens when she types in VE? She picks up a bottle of vecuronium. For anybody that's not familiar with that, vecuronium is a non-depolarizing neuromuscular block agent. It's paralytic. So what happens when you give people vecuronium? They're completely conscious, they're completely of their mind, they know what's going on, they're completely aware of everything, but they can't breathe and they can't do anything that requires voluntary muscle contraction. So what happened after Redonda gave her the medication? She gets put into the CT tube. Medication starts to work. She stops breathing. Redonda decided that after she was giving the patient a medication, she wasn't going to put her on a monitor of any sort. No BP cuff, no cardiac monitor, no SpO2, nothing, absolutely nothing. Not only did she not do that, she also failed to reassess her patient after she gave her a medication. And then on top of that, she failed to double check what medication she was giving. Now, some people are going to say, oh, well, she put what she thought was the right medication in the Pyxis. No, she put VE. How many different medications are there out there that start with the letters VE? We don't know. So a year goes by. Somebody ends up reporting the story to the Department of Health for Tennessee. They investigate, and then they refer the case over to the Attorney General, or whatever it is, State's Attorney, Attorney General, for the state. The state investigates it and says, we're bringing you up on charges. They put a warrant out for her, they arrest her, and the grand jury decided to go ahead and charge her on 2 felonies. I don't know what the one is, but the other one is reckless homicide. Now, reckless homicide in Tennessee is pretty much equivalent to manslaughter. So the elements of that in Tennessee are, there was a negligent action that happened, or a reckless action that happened. There was a death that happened, and that the death was a result of the negligent action. Redonda didn't check what medication she was giving. She didn't check how much of it she was giving. She didn't check to see if it was expired or anything like that. And she didn't check to make sure that she was giving it to the right patient at the right time. If she would have done any one of those things, on top of following basic medical standard of care, in the form of monitoring her patient closely after she gave her a medication, which the original medication was a benzo, so she should have been checked on anyways. She failed to do any of that stuff, and this poor lady died. Now, not only did this poor lady die, but she was tortured to death. Keep this in mind. The entire time she was awake and aware that she was suffocating and going through everything with that, and she couldn't do anything about it until she eventually went unconscious from hypoxia. And then as a result, there was severe neuro damage that happened because she was down for God knows how long without any kind of oxygenation, and then turned into a vegetable. And then on top of that, her family has to deal with the decision to go ahead and withdraw any kind of supportive care. So some people are saying it was an honest mistake. She went to the supervisor and all that stuff and said, hey, this is what happened, I messed up. Well, turns out Redonda didn't. She took the leftover vecuronium, gave it to the nurse, who is nurse 1, who was in charge of the patient, and said, here you go, this is your leftover medication from this patient. After the fact, after everything was all said and done. And this nurse goes and is like, is this the medication that you gave that patient? And she goes, yeah. And the nurse 1 looks at her and says, this is vecuronium, this isn't Versed. And so he then brings it to the nursing supervisor, and the nursing supervisor brought it up to the hospital. Hospital investigated it and figured everything out. Hospital told her, Redonda, not to worry about anything, that she wasn't going to get fired. She was employed at the hospital for about a year afterwards, up until they had the criminal charges that were brought up on her. But everybody's saying, oh, well, she came forward with it, there should be, just culture, just culture. No. Being in a healthcare position where you're responsible for a patient doesn't automatically absolve you of any kind of wrongdoing that you might do, especially not, for all intents and purposes, manslaughter. The amount of people that are supporting this woman is absolutely insane. She failed to do any, especially as a critical care nurse, she failed to do any basic medical care. I mean, in my own opinion, we have a higher standard of care that we have to follow as far as having due regard for other people and looking out for their best interest, because people don't know. You give somebody some Versed and say, here, this is going to relax you, don't worry about it. They're expecting that they are going to be okay and that you are looking out for them. They can't say, hey, if I'm on this medication, how come you didn't give me, or if I'm taking this medication, how come you're not giving me a pulse oximetry? How come you're not checking out my pulse ox? How come you're not cardiac monitoring me? How come you're not checking my vitals every 15 minutes like you should be? And all the stuff that goes along with that. They trust us to take care of them. We get them to the hospital, or we come upon patients. We say, don't worry, it's going to be okay. We got you. We're going to take care of you. And they trust us for the most part. We're in a position of trust. People need to be able to trust us. Now, if Redonda at any point in time would have stopped and said, this medication's different from all of the Versed that I've given before, I should probably look at this box. If anybody that's not aware, the box for Vecuronium, it's got a giant blue stripe along the front, and it's long, it's like an atropine box, basically. It's got 2 vials in it. One's got liquid, one's got a powder. It has to be reconstituted. And they are in 10 ml bottles. Now, in her defense, Versed is supplied in 10 and 10, or 2 and 10, or 5 and 10. It's supplied all kinds of different ways. But then Vecuronium is also supplied in a 20 ml, 20 milligrams in 20 ml bottle. But she should have said, Versed, that doesn't get reconstituted, or this packaging's a little bit different. Usually it's not in a box. Usually it's just loose vials. What's up with that? And she didn't do anything as far as patient care goes. So the big takeaways that I want to have from this is, one, ultimately the very, 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 very last person that is responsible for checking everything and making sure that what we're doing is safe is the person that's giving the medication. Ultimately, everybody can say, oh, well, she was doing a favor for somebody. She was a flex nurse or a resource nurse. She should have said, hey, I don't feel comfortable with that, if she wasn't comfortable with it. No, absolutely not. It is her responsibility. If you are giving people medications, it is your responsibility to make sure that what you are doing is safe. If somebody throws me a syringe full of whatever, I'm not giving it to a patient unless I have the empty vial in front of me. And I double check what it is, what the dose should be, and what the volume should be versus what I have in the syringe. Give people medications without checking any of these things. Because, like I said, ultimately, we're responsible. Being in a healthcare position does not absolve us of criminal actions. And that's the way it is. If we have to draw a line somewhere. There's a difference between making a relatively innocuous mistake and missing some sort of diagnosis, or missing some sort of symptom or sign that would clue us into something, and completely throwing caution to the wind and saying, well, I'm just not going to do my job right now. It's something simple. It's really, really simple. It's not like you can say her having years of experience would have changed the outcome, because she did. She had somewhere between, I want to say she had like 20 years of experience as a nurse, so she knew better. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. But yeah, that's my rant for today. Double check your medications. Make sure you're giving people the right thing and the right dose at the right time with the right patient, and you'll be okay. Don't take anybody's word for anything, and just do your job. That's it. People rely on us. We have to have due regard for everybody's safety, so people make it back, with their loved ones. So that's it. That's all I got for today. Thanks for coming by. Discuss in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Please share, actually. I want to thank people who have been sharing and sending people over the page. It's helped out a lot, especially in the last week. I think I added 20 or 30 new subscribers, so I'm pretty happy about that. It's taking off pretty well. I hope you guys like what you see. Thanks for coming by, and we'll see you back next week or maybe later this week. It depends on when I get going on. I got something really cool that's coming up. It'll be kind of fun. I'm hoping that it all works out all right. But like I said, thanks for coming by. Take care. Have a good day.
We out.